Namaste, welcome to Mana TV special live show continuation after short break. So ఇప్పుడు మనం మోడర్న్ ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ హైదరాబాద్ గురించి తెలుసుకుందాం. సంతోష్ కుమార్ గారు మిగిలిన డీటెయిల్స్ మనకి ఇస్తారు. సో సంతోష్ కుమార్ గారు, how is modern art of Hyderabad is linked to Indian modern art?
Modern art in Hyderabad started a little late. If you compare to the way and how modern art in India has evolved, because we know we cannot isolate the history of modern art in Hyderabad from the political history of Hyderabad. We were not part of the British Empire. We were not part of the British government. Hyderabad state was ruled by Nizam. 1948 annexation, that's a different history. So when you look at Hyderabad art and modern art in Hyderabad, it more or less starts in the 1940s. Okay. Before that, artists used to go out, like, because there was no art school in Hyderabad. As I was mentioning, art school was in Madras, Bombay and Calcutta, and we discussed about Shantiniketan, right? Shantiniketan was one. So artists used to go, and learn, study in these art schools, and then come back sometimes and not come back sometimes and stay over there. Or even when they come back, they were working as drawing teachers or in other kind of jobs. But practicing art as a professional practice, that quite did not exist with that consciousness. You have Ramakrishna Vaman Divaskar, you have Sukumar Divaskar, his son, who kind of entered into the framework of modern art, R.W. Divaskar was not yet, he didn't enter into the practice of modern art. He studied in Jiajia School of Art. When he came here, he was a friend of Salajing. He helped in setting up, initially he helped setting up the objects in his collection, Salajing Museum. But he was not, he cannot be considered as a modern artist or modernist artist in that sense, in the framework of modern art. He was a modern person practicing art, but not in the framework of modern art, what we define modern art. So in the 40s what happened is you have an art school established in Hyderabad, and which is very important. So unlike other cities where artists have practiced on their own, even after studying in art school they have practiced on their own. In 1940 in Hyderabad, the art school was established. The art school, which is now in Masaptang, which is called Jawaharlal Nehru Architecture and Fine Arts University, which before coming to Masaptang in the 1970s, it was in gun foundry, and the building is still there. If anybody is interested, you can go look at the building. So 1940s is the year, 1940 exactly, 1940 is the year when the art school was established. And the principal of art school was he was trained in JJ School of Art, and he created a curriculum using his experience and expertise and knowledge of the art teaching at that point of time. So in that art school, in that teaching system structure, you have a space for modern art. Okay, you have at a later stage of your development as a student, there was a section for exploring experimentation in modern art. And later the students who came out of that art school, they worked extensively in the framework of modern art, in the understanding of modern art. Otherwise, before that, what we have in Hyderabad Deccan, how it used to be called, you have a lot of crafts. You have Dakkani miniatures, right? You have different, you have Nirmal painting, you have Cherial paintings, you have various other folk and craft practices, various kinds of practices and painting practices, but not modern art as such. So with the establishment of school, it kind of allowed the students and then later artists, it allowed a space and scope to enter into modern art. So that's how it started. And the early teachers of this art school were trained largely in Jiajia School of Art, Bombay. So that is how it started. So which is very different. Modern art in Hyderabad started with the inception of an art school, with the art school itself. Unlike the logic of art schools, unlike why the art schools were established in the colonial cities, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, art schools in colonial cities were established to train students to become good craftsmen, to become good artisans, so to become good designers. Okay, but later it changed. So that changed approach, the changed teaching system came to Hyderabad, right? So the changed teaching system that got changed in the early 20th century, where they have also included modern art, they have also included painting, and we have seen, particularly for example, Gemini Roy, and also the progressive artists that we have seen, most of them were trained in the art school, right? So by the 1940s, art schools were training with certain kind of sensibilities, certain sensibilities about modern art. So that is how modern art in Hyderabad was started. Another important contribution in the 1940s was the establishment of Hyderabad Art Society. Hyderabad Art Society was established in 1940 along with the art school and in the same premises, and the people were also same people in the sense the artists and the teachers, and it was initiated by L.N. Gupta, the IAS administrator at that point of time. He was a secretary to the government at that point of time, and Mehdi Nawaz Jung and Salar Jung III, right? So they came together with the help of the other artists. They sort of set up something called Hyderabad Art Society in the lines of Bombay Art Society, right? So you have an art school and you have an art society. So art societies are basically patron agencies. You display, you buy paintings from the artists, so you patronize the artists. So art society was also established at that point of time, and Hyderabad Art Society has a very vibrant history which we have lost. It has a very vibrant history because all the major national artists, Hemaf Hussain, Akbar Padamsi, Ram Kumar, Ram Kinkar Bej, you take any name of this major group of artists, all of their works were displayed in Hyderabad Art Society annual exhibitions. So Hyderabad Art Society was a very popular, famous and very important art society for the Indian art. I mean, the question that you asked, like how Hyderabad modern art in Hyderabad is linked, is related to the modern art of India. It is related in the sense of opening a space for the Indian modern artists to come and share their ideas, to come and contribute to the formation of Hyderabad art. And Hyderabad art lent itself and it shared its contribution to the Indian modern art. So this is how it started, and it evolved quite rapidly, right? And the first generation of the students who came out of this art school, they joined this art school as teachers, right? And they have contributed immensely, because these students who came out of this art school, which is Jawaharlal Nehru Architecture and Fine Arts University now, at that point of time it was started as Central School of Art and Crafts. Central School of Art and Crafts. Its name changed later. So the students who finished their studies in this art school, they went out. Some of them went out to JJ school, some of them went to Shantiniketan to learn further and then come back. Some of them went to abroad also, France and London. So they brought different influences to Hyderabad. So the students who got trained in this art school, they went out and brought different influences, different ways of painting. So this is how initially, a brief kind of an outline about the starting of modern art in Hyderabad. And we can look at some of the artists. There are many artists, but what we can discuss today can be very few. And let's see how many we can discuss. So P.T. Reddy. P.T. Reddy was not a student, but still we consider we should discuss in the context of Hyderabad modern art. P.T. Reddy studied in Jiajia School of Art, and he stayed there. And in 1940, he started, in 1945, he started a group called Young Turks. Okay, so before the starting of Bombay Progressive Artist Group, P.T. Reddy with a group of his artist friends formed a group called Young Turks, okay, with the same progressive ideology to kind of move forward, to paint in that, to paint in the way the Western artists were painting, like Picasso, like Matisse, like, you take any name of the Western artist, Western art, Western modern art. So to paint in that language, because that is modern. So P.T. Reddy brought together his artist friends and formed this group called Young Turks, but which could not survive for a long time. So he left the group and he came to Hyderabad, right? So he came to Hyderabad and he started his practice. And we have some names, we'll go ahead and see. So this is one of his early paintings. Okay, P.T. Reddy, again, from the very early stage, he practiced in the modernist style with that kind of abstraction, with the kind of freedom of color. Like here, the question of freedom of color, if you look at the yellow, the sky is yellow. He painted the sky yellow, the red patches on the ground and the kind of yellow ground, you never see yellow ground. The land is brown, right? But he took the liberty of an artist, of a painter, and he used freely different colors, and it looks very imaginative. It doesn't look a real landscape or real streetscape, but it looks a sort of a very imaginative, very dreamy and a beautiful kind of a landscape. And this sense of freedom and this way of using yellow for sky and blue for land, this logic, this particular kind of painting was started in France by someone called Henri Matisse, okay, and which led to something called Fauvism. Okay, so P.T. Reddy, like various other artists at that point of time, particularly the progressive artists, took influences from these art movements. And here we can take this as an example to see how he is taking influences from Fauvism. This is another example, and one of the important features of P.T. Reddy's work is he worked in different languages, not only different mediums, but different methods of painting, different styles of painting. So unlike the earlier one, as you see here, there is a sense of clarity and space, and there's a lot of vastness you can feel. Here it is more close and compact, and the lines, the dark lines are very prominent, right? So this looks more closer to what we can see in Expressionism that was happening in Germany. So this language, so he is taking influences from Fauvism, he is also taking from influences from Expressionism. So these are the two movements, art movements, which were very prominent at that point of time and very important for the Indian progressive artists. So this is again a different style, right? Different from what we have seen before. Here he is not using the kind of color that you see in the last two slides. Here he is using a sense of drawing, a kind of drawing, right? He is using the line, a very clear drawing. You don't see a clear drawing here. Not even here you can see a clear drawing, right? So the color and the drawing merge even here the color and drawing merge, but here you see a clear drawing and the color is applied separate. It is different from the drawing, right, where you can see the horse, the red color of the horse, and the red color is also going out. So there is the coordination between color, the relation between color and the drawing, the shape of the horse, is slightly arbitrary, slightly, abstract. And look at the figure. The figure is also stylized. The limbs look little short. The eyes are coming out. It is called stylization. It is not that he doesn't know drawing. He didn't want to do, but he didn't want to draw a figure that looks very realistic. So the stylization of the figure is very important when it comes to this particular point in time of modern art. So the kind of stylization that you have here. So this looks more, if you have seen any Greek art or the Minoan art, there is a place called Minos in Greece. So this image looks similar to the paintings that you see in Minos. So it's very closer to the Minoan art, the chariot, the horses, and the charioteer. This is again a different kind of image. This is you have skeletons, you have a chair that is laid out horizontally. It looks like an eagle. You have an eagle and you have a knife. It is not a very happy painting. It looks like it is a comment on the struggle for power. It is to kind of maybe for power, and the chair here is a symbol of power, right? So maybe it looks like a comment of this struggle for power, and the chair and all that. This is also of the same kind, right? You have a chair, you have an eagle, you have an evil-looking face, okay, and holding another figure. So you have seen four kinds of paintings. The artist is one, but he has ventured into different styles of painting. He was always experimenting and different styles of painting. This is again, it looks more tantric, right? So it is very different. It's more flat, it's more geometric. You have a Ganesha in the center, but you don't have the body of Ganesha entirely. So Ganesha is impressed within the motif of a flower, right? So it's very, again, geometric and abstract. It is not realistic. It doesn't have the kind of figure drawing that you have earlier. Look at the hands here, look at the way the hands are drawn. It's very linear, different from the other paintings. So this is another kind of image, image that he has created. This is he created in etching. Etching is a technique of printmaking. Printmaking is a different technique. It is not painting. Printmaking is something where you prepare a surface and you take how many number of prints that you want from that surface. So this is one of the printmaking techniques called intaglio technique. So he also ventured into wood carving. He also did wood carving. He also created furniture. He designed furniture, and he also ventured into printmaking. Another important artist, so Rajaya, K. Rajaya, Kapoor Rajaya, he was born in Siddipet, and then he was interested in art, so he came to Hyderabad and he joined the art school in Hyderabad. And his interest was towards the village, the folk, and the traditional art, right? So he was inspired from Gemini Roy, which I was mentioning yesterday. He was inspired by Gemini Roy, but he went into taking inspirations from the traditional painting of India. Okay, for example, the Lepakshi murals, the Srikalahasti Kalamkari practices, and other traditional practices. And he was more interested in the village life, in the folk life, in the tribal life, right? So this painting, which is very different from P.T. Reddy, right? It looks more folkish, right? More, the category of painting is also like within the modern art, you have a category called naive and folk category. So within that, you have Rajaya Falls, right? So you have, he kind of uses a particular kind of stylization. This may be, three women. You have, they are they are weaving a sort of a thing, for mattresses, with date, with palm date leaves, right? So this looks like, their upper body is not fully covered. Maybe they belong to the tribal communities, right? So there is a sense of rustic quality, right? They do not, they by looking at the figures, you see, okay, they belong to either hills or to the remote villages, right? So he was more interested in the village life, village work, village communities. So this is an example of toddy tapers, right? And the kind of simplification is very impressive. Look at the trees, and the way he is painting the leaves of the trees. They look very interesting, ornamental sort of an images. So Hyderabad artists and Kapoor Rajaya and later artists, you see, ornamentation is one of the prominent methods of painting. One of the prominent features of modern Hyderabad modern art is the ornamentation, and which I think still continues. You can see in the kind of exhibitions that you have here, ornamentation is something that becomes almost institutionalized. Everybody uses ornament now, but at that point of time, it is these major artists who have actually introduced ornamentation as a way of painting and expression, right? This is a very localized theme, right? Bonalu and the procession of Bonalu, right? So here he is not only representing a normal village life, but he is also representing the cultural dimensions, cultural practices. So Rajaya is not interested, like let us say Panikkar, or like the other artists we have seen. He is not interested in this larger idea of Indian identity or Indian art, but he is interested in this local Telangana villages. That is very striking about Rajaya, where he painted in that way. He also painted the themes, the kind of themes that he painted. It reflects the rustic land of the region that he was living, which is Telangana, right? This is another festival, Batukamma, and you see why he is very closely inspired from the traditional folk painting. Traditional, folk painting. If you see Charial painting, for example, the colors are very similar. The figure type. You see here all the figures, look similar. They are standing in the similar manner. They are walking in the same direction. The trees that you see here, they look similar. This is something. This repetition. There is a sense of repetition, right? You have one figure. The one figure is repeated almost 5 times, and the trees also at the back are repeated 5-6 times or more, right? So this repetition is the character of the folk and traditional painting. Okay, so he, as a modern artist, he is taking the logic and the methods of painting, methods of representation of the folk and traditional art practice. So it is a very interesting choice. Unlike just taking the superficial, surfacial aspects, he is taking the structural aspects, the methods of painting. This is another important artist, Sheshagiri Rao, Kundapalli Sheshagiri Rao. So Rajaya went back to Siddipet after his studies. He established Lalit Kala Samiti, and he started teaching. He started teaching drawing and painting, and you have many students of his, and then who became drawing teachers, who became artists. He contributed immensely to the art of Hyderabad and Telangana, and particularly to Siddipet. Kondapalli Sheshagiri Rao, he finished his 5 years diploma in the art school, Central School of Art and Crafts, Hyderabad. After he finished, he was inspired by Mehdi Nawaz Jung at that point of time. He asked Sheshagiri Rao that, you are very good, you cannot stop here. After you finish here, you should go somewhere and learn some more. So at that point of time, Shantiniketan was very much prominent. I mean, Mehdi Nawaz Jung wrote a letter to Nandalal saying, this student is coming, he is very promising. And if you get into the other side of the history where, Tagore visited Hyderabad, Tagore was impressed about Osmania, and there was a kind of a impressive image about Hyderabad in Bengal, in Kalabhavan, particularly Shantiniketan. So Sheshagiri Rao goes to Shantiniketan, and Mehdi Nawaz Jung helps him to go to Shantiniketan, and he stayed 1 year, and under the guidance of Nandalal Bose directly. So he was a student of Nandalal Bose for 1 year, and he learned painting over there. 1948 and 49 is the year. That is the year right after independence and the time of independence. 1947 to 48, sorry. 1947 to 48 is the time when Sheshagiri Rao spent over there, and that was the time, that was the peak of Shantiniketan, the kind of works, the kind of experimentation that was happening in Shantiniketan. And the Chinese calligraphic painting was very influential on Sheshagiri Rao. He learned the Chinese calligraphic technique of painting, and he worked extensively. And he is another versatile artist where he worked in different kinds of painting, different methods of painting simultaneously. So he would paint in that Chinese calligraphic method, as well as in a very modernist method, as well as in a very traditional folkish method. So this is one of a vibrant examples of Sheshagiri Rao, one painting. So he chose from the 70s and into 80s and later, he chose to work with the traditional themes, the mythological themes. He was also experimented in modern abstract painting, but he stopped. So this is, again, this appears like a theme coming from Ramayana, maybe, where the time when Sita Rama was spending in the forest. But this is more about forest, and look at the trees, the very expressive trees. And these trees, the quality of the trees, the character of the trees is coming from the Chinese painting that he learned. These trees, if you compare this with Jiajia, for example, Jiajia's trees are very schematic, very repetitive. But Sheshagiri Rao uses trees, he dramatizes trees. He studied different kinds of trees and he explored them in his paintings. So you see here different kinds of trees, different expressive, kind of foliage. Yeah, this is Nayika, and this can be Nayika of any story. Right in the center, it's very close to the kind of traditional painting that we have. You take miniature paintings, you take mural paintings. So he evolved at a language. He sort of combined all those experiences, and he sort of made his own personalized language of traditional painting. That is interesting about Sheshagiri Rao, where it is not that he's, for example, Abanindranath Tagore has taken traditional elements and traditional motifs. He evolved his own personal language with technique of wash painting. And Sheshagiri Rao used all these traditional examples, and he evolved his own traditional painting, you know, where the figures and forms are coming from the mythological stories. They are set in this rich, dense forest, and you know, so it's more like what the stories that we hear, you know, about kings and queens, about dense forests. You can get that experience when you look at Sheshagiri Rao. This is an example of his folk, of his tribal, painting tribal people, you know. So at that point of time, you know, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, the artists have responded, artists have painted tribal themes, and this is one of the examples. Yeah, the thing that I was mentioning about Chinese calligraphic painting. So these are two examples where he worked, he learned the techniques of Chinese painting extensively when he was living in Shantiniketan. And then when he came back, he did not stop it. He continued painting. He continued Chinese, this kind of painting. He continued till the end, you know. So these are just two examples. He did hundreds of such drawings, hundreds of, so which is very quick, and you can see this is very different from what you have seen here, right? Very different. This is, you need to know how to kind of, how much color that you should load in the brush, and how you should press the brush, and how you should move the brush, right? It needs a very quick, attentive, and very skillful understanding of color, brush, and the movement. Okay, so you cannot use the brush again. It's just one stroke. So this is something that he learned in Shantiniketan. And you just look at the signature on the left image. You see, just look at the signature. He is also signing. He's of course signing in Telugu, but he is signing vertically, which is again a Far Eastern way of writing. And he has created a monogram for himself, you know, which is again a Chinese method of signature. So he continued this monogram, and he continued signing in this vertical orientation. So like I was mentioning, apart from the folk, traditional, and mythological themes, and the traditional language of painting, apart from the Chinese ways of painting, he also ventured into the abstract, the semi-abstract way of painting, you know, and this is called the dying crow or the dying crane, right? And you can sense here, you know, the flight is divided, you know, the flight of the bird, you know, in the sky. The flight, the sense of flight is created by, you know, using this different faceting, different texture, different division of the wing, as you can see on the top, and you can see that as if it is moving, right? It's not a static image. So this is one of the examples of his abstract painting. Vidya Bhushan is a very obscure artist. We don't talk about Vidya Bhushan, but Vidya Bhushan is a very important artist when it comes to Hyderabad. He was not born in Hyderabad, but he came to Hyderabad. He studied in Jiajia School of Art. He was born in Karnataka, Maharashtra border, you know, village. Then he went to Jiajia School of Art to study art. Then later he came to Hyderabad as a teacher. He started teaching. So he was not a student of this art school in Hyderabad, but he joined as a teacher. Right after joining as a teacher, he brought a different influence altogether, right? So when I was talking about Sheshagiri Rao, he spent 1 year in Shantiniketan. He came back and he started teaching. Okay, he started teaching. Right after that, you have Vidya Bhushan coming from Bombay. So what happened then in the late 1940s, early 50s in Hyderabad, you have one influence coming from Shantiniketan, another influence coming from Jiajia School. Okay, and these two influences were available. These two kinds of knowledges of painting through Vidya Bhushan and Sheshagiri Rao were available to the students. Okay, so these two artists were teaching with their own ways of practice. They were teaching, And this combination has actually created a very interesting space for learning, for the students. So Sheshagiri Rao continued to teach till the end in the art school, and he produced many important artists. Vidyabhushan was also a very, very important teacher. He went to Belgrade in the early 50s, and he learned a technique called egg tempera, which is a very important technique. And egg tempera continued to be taught in the art school in Hyderabad, and many artists have adopted egg tempera. And Vidyabhushan worked in this modernist semi-abstract language, and he was famous for his portraiture, and this is one of the portraits that he painted. And he painted this in a more or less post-impressionist modernist style. Yeah. Along with many other political figures that he painted, this is a famous painting of Indira Gandhi that he painted in 70s. So like other artists, he also ventured into the abstract. So like other artists, he also ventured into different kinds of practices, different ways of painting: abstract, figurative, linear figurative, and landscapes, and different kinds of paintings. So this is one of it, where you have a female and male figure. Maybe it's like an Ardhanareshwara, maybe it's a copulation, but it's that semi-abstract combination of two figures. This is when he went to Belgrade, he painted this. It is nothing but, if you look at this painting, this reminds us of many of the modern Western painters, many of the Impressionist painters in the late 19th century, which happened in France. So he was influenced very closely from the modern modernist Western painting. What you see here is a kind of you look at the painting, what is more prominent is this orange strip, right? The orange strip in the center, that kind of holds the painting, right? The orange strip of the bridge. Yeah, so he went into this kind of a semi-abstract sort of it looks like a landscape, but it is not the typical landscape which you see. It's not a green landscape. You have a sort of a field. It looks like a field, but the sky is red, the clouds are there, but the effect of landscape is not serene. It is not a landscape which is green. It is a landscape which gives you different sensibilities. Maybe it's a summer, right? So it's more about the sensibilities. So he ventured into different kinds of practices. Another important artist, and he's a popular artist, almost everyone knows, Tota Vaikuntham. In his context, one needs to mention the 1960s. He went to Baroda after the art school in Hyderabad. After he studied in Hyderabad, he went to Baroda. And 1960s is a very interesting decade. 1963 is the year when Regional Lalit Kala Academy was established. There was a Lalit Kala Academy in Hyderabad called Andhra Pradesh Lalit Kala Academy. So Andhra Pradesh Lalit Kala Academy used to give fellowships to the artists, who just passed out from the art school to pursue further studies, higher studies. So they used to give 1-year fellowship to the promising student artists to go out and study under one guru. So Vaikuntham, along with other artists, Vaikuntham was one of the artists who went to Baroda in the 60s, and he studied under K.G. Subramaniam. K.G. Subramaniam was a very influential teacher. He is known as teacher's teacher. He taught many artists who became teachers later. He taught, for example, when it comes to Hyderabad, you have Lakshma Gaud, Vaikuntham, Gauri Shankar, you have Kavita Diyoskar, you have several, and all of them are teachers, right? And he taught many artists who became teachers in other institutes. So he went there and he studied under him for 1 year. And the people who studied in Baroda at that point of time, they brought certain kind of understanding of art, certain kind of approaches towards art, and they brought an idea that artists should learn from their own roots. This is a very important idea emerging in the 1960s. It was called indigenous trend. You can note it like indigenous trend. Indigenous trend means learning from your own traditions, learning from your own culture, you know. So he was learning from, so he brought this idea of indigenous trends, right? So which is why you see there is a turn towards region, right? If you look at this image, this is about a couple in the village, you know, the village of Telangana. So the question of representation, the image of this rural, rustic village, you know, farmers, village people emerged in the 1960s. You have Rajaya painting, you have Sheshagiri Rao painting, but in the 60s, a particular kind of consciousness, a particular kind of awareness was there with the artists who brought this awareness from Baroda, like after their experience in Baroda. And we'll see a bunch of artists now how that came out. So Vaikuntham, you see, he went on painting from the 60s. He went on painting this rural, rustic village woman, particularly of Telangana, and he gradually evolved this very refined treatment, very refined way of ornamentation, right? The kind of decorative motifs that you see here. He struggled a lot in the 60s. When he came back, he didn't have money to eat, you know, he didn't have money to survive. So he struggled a lot, did illustrations and all. He also worked as art director for very important films, you know. For example, Ma Bhumi was one of the examples. So he worked as an art director for that film and various other films directed by Narsingh Rao, B. Narsingh Rao. And then later, gradually, he established himself as a very prominent painter of Hyderabad, right? And you see, constantly, he established a sort of a language for himself, you know, with ornamentation, with this rustic rural feel. Surya Prakash was also one of the artists of the same time who came out of the art school, who went to Baroda and then came back. But he was not influenced by all this. He was a sort of an artist who is very different from the other artists, who is an idealist, who was inspired by nature. Okay, so who took forms from nature and he transformed nature into a sort of a dreamy scapes. So he has an element of dream in his paintings. This is a painting from Lotus series. Okay, so you see lotus leaves and lotus flowers, and later he gets into this kind of a very phantasmatic, you know, very fantastic, you know, fantasy, fantasious, dream-like, very surreal kind of landscapes, right? As you know, it looks like you are entering into a dream. So he continues painting like this. So he is an artist very different from other artists, you know. So this is another trend existing in Hyderabad. Yes, Lakshma Gaud is also an artist who went to Baroda and came back. He's known for he's known as a graphic artist of Hyderabad. He worked in printmaking extensively. So he spent 1 year in Baroda and came back. When he came back, he brought again the same ideas of indigenism, and he went into the roots. So the village that he came from, after he comes back, Lakshma Gaud started drawing, started painting, started making prints from the village experiences. Okay, so in the later times, after 60s, 70s and 80s, you see he is arranging the figures, these farmers, these shepherds in these rustic rural villages. And gradually he kind of gave a sense of identity, a sense of identity to the practice, to the kind of images that he created. So the women of Telangana villages, the shepherds of Telangana, in the way they wear their ornaments, the way they wear their dress. So again here you see a sense of ornamentation. Look at the blouse, look at the way he is drawing the leaves, look at the ear ornaments that she is wearing. So like Vaikuntham, he also draws with that ornamental treatment. This is a very colorful example. Kavita Diyaskar is a very important woman artist. We don't quite get to hear her name, but she is a very important woman artist, and who is also a very important teacher who taught in this art school. And yeah, she also studied in Baroda and came back, and she again was responding to the rustic rural people, and you can see here it's a farmer couple, and her images become more iconic. And she also worked as a woman. She also kind of invoked the sense of the power, the strength of woman, and you can see that in this, where the woman figure is sitting as a queen in the center, also in this where she is looking like a queen. Right. So this is the alams. So we have seen a range of artists from the 1940s, and how Hyderabad art emerged from this own location, but influences from different centers of art practice came, and it entered through teaching, and how the artist went out and brought in different influences and created a space of its own in Hyderabad. Thank you.
Well, Santhosh Kumar garu, that was really a wonderful explanation about modern art of Hyderabad. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So this is the special live show of Mana TV. Keep watching Mana TV.